Thank you to all senators for their contribution on, I think, what is a really important debate but discussion on what happened last Thursday evening. And I want to join again with colleagues in condemning the absolutely barbaric attack on a group of young, innocent school children, their carer. My wishes and my thoughts are very much with the young girl and her carer who are still critically ill in hospital, but also with their families, with the children who were there, who were in hospital, who have been sent home, with their school, the wider school community, and so many people who have been impacted by this event. And I wish them well, and I wish them a recovery, as I know we all do. I also want to commend, as many senators have, the passers-by, the people who intervened, who I have no doubt have saved lives, no doubt. The people who then came to their aid, the people who medically supported those children and who continue to protect and to mind those children and their carer. I think we are all indebted to them, and it's important to acknowledge the work that they do day in, day out, and as many have said, given the wider discussion that we're having, many of whom were not born in this country and we would be lost without them. I want to acknowledge that what ensued after that was absolutely appalling. A group of small numbers of people, incited, yes, by many online, but many who are on the scene as well, incited people to violence, to hatred, to sow division in this country, in our community, in our capital city, to create fear among many people. And the violence and the vandalism and the barbarity and the attacks which ensued were absolutely appalling, and I think nothing that any of us ever thought that we would see. And those who are responsible, they have to be brought to justice. They must be punished. They have to face the full rigours of the law. What we also saw were members of An Garda Síochána and our emergency workers who responded to the scene, but who also responded to the violent scenes later on, respond in an effective, in an efficient and in a fast way. And people can question afterwards how things should have been done better, how they could have been done better, and they will. And I've received an initial report from the Garda Commissioner outlining what happened that afternoon. I'll receive a further detailed report, and there will be lessons learned, there will be things that can and should be done differently. I have no doubt if this were to happen again. But I have to commend the members of An Garda Síochána, the way in which they mobilised. We've never seen as many public order units mobilised together ever in this country. We've seen over 400 members come together to respond to a violent mob, and in a very short space of time. They were contained in a very small part of our city centre, albeit the damage they caused was horrendous, but they contained them in a short area, a small area, and within a matter of hours, what could have escalated into much more violent and potentially deadly scenes was contained and stamped out before we reached midnight. So I just cannot commend members of An Garda Síochána enough. And yes, they came from outside of the city centre and they came from all over the country. They were called upon, but also there were members who literally saw what was happening and hopped into their car and drove to Dublin to support their colleagues. And that really represents the very best of what An Garda Síochána are and what they do. We've had a lot of discussion, and I think we need to separate as well what happened on that night, the violent scenes, from the wider discussions when we talk about safety in our city. Of course, people were not safe in our city centre on Thursday night. Nobody would go near the city centre. It was not safe. But more broadly, I have listened to colleagues in this chamber, and I've listened in particular to those who live in our city centre. I've met with community organisations. I've met with businesses, not just in Dublin, but in Cork, in Galway, in Limerick, in my own county, in smaller towns and villages, and I've heard concerns that people have raised. And it's because of the fact that I and my colleagues in government have listened to the fact that there are people who don't feel safe in this city, be it people from minority groups, be it women, be it people just going about their work. It's because of this that the many actions have been taken over the last number of years. It's because of this that we are focused on, and I'm absolutely focused on making sure that we have as many Gardaí as possible. While COVID meant that our college was closed to new recruits for 2 years, we now have a steady flow coming out of the college. Every class, every 3 months, has gotten larger and larger, and we'll have another class by the end of the year. And we can see that momentum building, and we can see more people who want to join the ranks. 5,000 people applied to the last recruitment campaign, and the next campaign Senator, will start in the new year. I'm always told Christmas is not a good time to have a campaign, so while there may be a soft launch, the campaign will open in the new year, and it will be complemented by a campaign to attract more members to the Garda Reserve as well, to support the Gardaí in the work that they do. And we've done a lot to try and ensure that members are staying, but also that they want to join. We've increased the age now in which people can apply from 35 to 50. We've increased the training allowance, which is applying to members now in the college by 66%. We're increasing the retirement age to make sure that we keep those who are really experienced and who want to stay on. We're investing more and more in technology and equipment and making sure the Gardaí have the tools, the technology, but also in supports for themselves, for their own mental health, for their own well-being, given the types of scenes, the types of incidents that they have to respond to and the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. Of course, we need a greater presence on the ground here. We have put in place Operation Citizen, and that is to make sure that we have that high visibility presence, but also supplemented with 10 million in additional funding to try and make sure that we have as visible a presence on the ground, because we all know that when people see members of An Garda Síochána, it makes them feel safe. Whether anything is going on or not, it's important to have that strong presence. I've listened to shopkeepers, I've listened to retail workers who say that we need to do more to protect them from those who rob them, to protect them from antisocial behaviour, and I've been working with An Garda Síochána and retailers to make sure that we can put an operation in place that specifically targets those prolific offenders who are causing so much damage in our city. We have a zero-tolerance strategy to protect women who don't feel safe, to protect women who are victims of domestic and sexual violence, and there are many actions in that across many departments which have a sole focus and intention on making sure that women and children and anyone who is a victim of domestic or sexual violence or any type of assault, that they would be safe. So there's a huge amount of work that's underway. Our Garda budget has increased by almost a quarter in the last 3 years, and it will continue to increase. And many of the issues that the representative organisations raise with me, any industrial relations matters, we are working through them, and I want to see them resolved, because all of this, I think, is important in making sure that Gardaí are supported and confident in the work that they do, but also communities are supported. And finally, in that regard, community safety partnerships, and we've had discussions on these in recent times in relation to the policing bill. This is about acknowledging that policing and safety, it's not just about policing, that it's a role for the entire community, all of our services, all of our departments, all of our agencies working together, responding collectively to deal with the issues in our society, to deal with communities that need to be lifted up, to put in place the supports and the resources, be they health supports, be they educational supports, to make sure that nobody is left behind and that we address the root causes. But I have to be really clear, my own personal opinion, and I agree with so much of what Senator Ruane has said and always do, but there are many people in our society who are marginalised. There are many people who feel that they don't have the same access to supports or education as others. There are many people who are victims, and they don't go out and loot, they don't go out and riot, they don't go out and attack members of An Garda Síochána. And we have to acknowledge that. Yes, we have to get to the root causes of the challenges that we face and what may cause people to do what they do. And there are many people who do bad things who aren't bad people, but we cannot look at what happened on Thursday and excuse it away. There is absolutely no excuse for it. I also want to say, and to Senator Keoghan, I think your comments, they can be very dangerous. They are dangerous. To say that migration or migrants and crime are connected. That's not appropriate. It's not okay. And it's very sad to hear that in our chamber.
Senator Keoghan, please. Senator Keoghan, Senator Keoghan, the Minister is entitled to respond. Senator Keoghan, please. The Minister, you had the opportunity to make your comments. The Minister has the opportunity to respond, and I would ask you to allow her to do so without interruption. Please. Please. Colleagues, please, Minister, without interruption, please. This has been a respectful debate so far, and don't ruin it in the last few minutes. That's all I'm going to ask you. Minister, without interruption.
We all have a duty here as public representatives. We all have a duty to know and to understand that the words that we use have actions. And what we saw last week, what we are starting to see, the spread of hatred, the spread of a small group of people which are unfortunately growing somewhat. They're intent on sowing division and hatred in our society with the sole objective of creating instability and challenging our democracy. we, as members in this democracy, we have an obligation to not feed into that and to not be part of it. And I would ask senators to look at their words and what they're saying. Our communities are enriched by the people who have come to this country, who are part of our hospitals, part of our schools, who came to the aid of those children the other day. And I think to equate them or anybody who is an immigrant, who has sought shelter, refuge in this country with crime is simply wrong, and it's simply incorrect. And I think the message that we should be sending very loudly from this House and from the Dáil chamber is that we stand in solidarity against those who wish to sow division and to sow hate. And I think our language in that regard is really important in doing that. So finally, I just want to thank colleagues for their contributions. I think what has happened has shone a light, I think, on the way in which we collectively need to stand against those, as I've just said, who wish to sow division and to create hate in our society. And I look forward to working with colleagues in the many, many ways in which we can push back on those of which we've seen. Thank you.